Okay, the Gemara on Daf Ayin Beis Amud Aleph dealing with Ben Torah Motor is very similar to the Mishnayos and the Psukim, so we will be going through it pretty quickly. The Gemara starts off at the top of the Daf, beginning with the words Tanya Rebbe Yossi Aglili, and extends all the way down to the bottom right before the next Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Tanya Rebbe Yossi Aglili Omer. The Gemara's opening question, right? Rabbi Yossi Haglili asks, is it possible that this kid ate a little bit too much basar and drank a little bit too much wine, and all of a sudden we bring him to Beis Din, and the Beis Din paskins that he is chayav skila, he needs to be killed? How is that possible? At this point of his life, he hasn't done anything that makes him chayiv misa. Says the Gemara in its opening answer, like we've been saying all along, Ella higia Torah l'sof daito shal ben sorer umore. Rather, we see which road this ben sorer umore is taking, what path he decided to go on, which direction he's taking his life in, and we see what is eventually going to happen to this kid. So what is that road that he's taking? So the Gemara says that actually what happens is he forms somewhat of an addiction. And when a person has an addiction, they do one action that leads to another, which leads to another, and eventually they end up in a place where they never actually thought they would get to. So says the Gemara, Shesof migmar nichsei aviv, eventually when he continues to steal from his father, in order to fill his desire of meat and wine, he's going to finish anything that his father has. He's going to rob his father clean. His father's not going to have any nechasim, any property left, and eventually he's going to have to go somewhere else in order to fulfill his desire. So what's he going to do? Mevakish lemudo. He's going to still need to continue on and fill his addiction. Ve'eno motzi, and he's not going to find anything in his parents' home. He's not going to find the money, he's not going to find the food anymore in his parents' home because he already stole it, he already used all that up. So what's he going to do? V'yotzi leparshas terachim. He's going to go out into the streets. Umalasteim esabrios. He's going to end up robbing brios, anyone else that he sees in the street. He's going to end up robbing them, stealing money, and going out in order to buy whatever food or drink he needs to satisfy him. So we see that he starts off with this taiva, this desire to eat. Okay, that desire to eat eventually leads him to stealing money from his parents. Now, when his parents run out of money, he's going to have to go and steal money from everybody else. And the question is, right, how does he end up being chayav misa? How does he get to this point where we actually are mechayev, are obligated to kill him? So the Gemara ends off as it concludes, says Amra Torah. Yomo Zakai, Yomos Chayav, Shabisasam, Shavrashayim, and Allahem, and Olam, Sadikim, Allahem, Viral Olam. Like we said, like we've been saying all along, therefore, the Beis Din would rather kill him now because it's better for him to die innocent than to die guilty, and a Misa for a Rasha is good for him, it's good for everybody else, and as opposed to a Tzaddik, who is bad for him and bad for everyone else. The Gemara then continues just to quote the same differentiations that the Mishnah said. Shein of Yain l'Shayim and Allahem v'Nala Olam, Tzadikim Ralahem v'Rala Olam. Comes to Shein and Yain, we saw the difference over there. Sheket l'Shayim Ralahem v'Rala Olam, Tzadikim Hanalahem v'Hanala Olam. Peace and tranquility. Then we saw Pizor l'Rishayim Hanalahem v'Nala Olam, Tzadikim Ralahem v'Rala Olam. Okay, so the Gemara lists the other three examples of these differentiations between Tzadikim and Rishayim. So just one question that I want to end off with is, number one, is what exactly does he do to be Chayav Misa? Right? We assume that eventually, the Gemara says that eventually he's going to do something that he would actually be Chayav Misa for, that he would actually get the death penalty for. However, what do we end off with? Right? What is the final step in this process? Doesn't seem to be anything that's chayav misa. Okay, so number one, how is it possible that he is chayav misa, even assuming this addiction continues? And number two, obviously we have to deal with how does the punishment fit the crime, even though he didn't actually do anything right now. So again, we have the opening question of the Gemara. Then we have the Gemara's opening answer over here. says Elahigia Torah L'Sof Daito Shaben Torah Mora, and then we give the reasoning, okay, the reasoning behind why we kill him. Shesof Migmar Nechsei Aviv. We see the addiction. One thing leads to the next. Then we draw the conclusion that we'd rather kill him now so that he dies innocently as opposed to dying later when he's guilty. And then the Gemara just adds on 3 other examples of this differentiation that we see between Tzaddikim and Rishayim.